What's going on, everybody? Have you ever found yourself in a war between you and you? And what I mean by you and you is you find yourself caught in a struggle between who God destined you to be and what you are right now, which is someone who is filled with trauma, filled with issues, problems, disappointments, obstacles. Sometimes in life we may think that we have gotten over something and, life is looking pretty good and we see fruit and, we think we arrived. We think that we don't need any help. We all good. Because that's what the preacher man said, When you went up for prayer, he prayed for you and they said go out and enjoy your life and all that hippity hoopla. But in reality, you find yourself back to square one. It don't matter how far you get, you find yourself right back to where you started. And right back to where you started means you destroyed your relationship with your family, your spouse. You may have gotten yourself fired from your job that you've been on for 15, 20 years. You just destroyed everything. You burned bridges, you turned something good into something sour. It's like a rubber band. You can take that rubber band and depending on the size, you can stretch it pretty far, but once you let it go, it's gonna snap back to where it was. It's gonna snap back to its original place. And that's the same thing with us. We become the rubber band man. The rubber band man. That's what I'm calling this series. Rubber band man. A lot of the undealt issues is what keep us snapping back to square number one. We have undealt with issues. We have childhood trauma that we just held on to over the years and brought it into our marriages and brought it into our adulthood, and it just destroyed our lives. It was like a virus that just took over. I'm here to encourage you today to, first of all, go to God first and allow him to meet you where you are. All you have to say, you don't have to say anything deep. You just say, Lord, this is where I am. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm hurt. This person hurt me. This is what happened to me. This is what I'm left with. And God will meet you right there. You don't have to be all super saved and sanctified. God would appreciate your honesty, because right there and then he can help you truly, because you surrendered your issues and problems to him. You cast all your cares unto him. Now that doesn't mean that the process won't hurt and it won't sting, because it will, because he has to go in and perform surgery. So that may be, going back to certain memories, or take yourself back to places that you kind of put away in your mind, but it's necessary. And childhood trauma is really devastating. And I'm no doctor or psychiatrist. I don't have any psychological degrees or anything, but I will put my money on the main cause of a lot of our issues in adulthood. I bet they come from childhood trauma. When you're a child, nobody tells us how to deal with issues. Matter of fact, when we're children, I know I was told that, because I'm a child, I don't stress. I shouldn't be stressed. I shouldn't have issues. There's nothing wrong, and that wasn't right. Because then I grew up with issues that I could have dealt with when I was younger, but nobody taught me how. I was taught how to sweep stuff under the rug. And you keep sweeping stuff under the rug, before you know it, that rug gonna start sticking up and them problems gonna start sticking out. So we have to truly identify what the problem is, and understand that sometimes we won't know why what happened to us happened to us. Sometimes we look for closure in people saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have said that. But sometimes we won't get a sorry. Sometimes the person is gone, they dead, they in their grave. Or sometimes the person just brick-brained it. And there's nothing you can do about that. You're still gonna have to get closure, right? But sometimes you're gonna have to have closure from non-closure, meaning you have to give it to God and let God bridge the gap. Because at that point, either way, God is the only one who can heal you anyway. Don't be the rubber band man and keep getting to a certain distance, and you thinking that you arrived, and you thinking everything's all good in life because everything looking sweet for the moment. Because I guarantee you, something is gonna trigger you and draw you back. And when you go back, there's no telling what kind of consequences is gonna meet you at back. Some people end up in jail because they went back. Some people end up losing their family because they ended up going back. And some people, sad to say, and I'm sorry to say, some people end up 6 feet under in the casket. There are people laying on the ground right now because they went back. Because of undealt issues, problems that wasn't dealt with, they weren't dealt with. Childhood trauma. We're taught to just keep moving through life and keep moving forward. But you gotta look back to move forward. You gotta deal with stuff to move forward. Especially when it comes to relationship stuff. See, a lot of people get in relationships because of trauma. They're not getting to relationships to give, which is what the purpose of a relationship is. They get in there to get. And once that person can't supply what they require, they gotta move on to something else, somebody else, and the cycle keeps going on and on and on and on and on. But what they don't understand is they're trying to fill a void from a childhood trauma. That happens a lot. That's why a lot of people breaking up. You got a lot of relationships, a lot of marriages breaking up. The trauma. The psychological damage that comes from trauma. People get into these relationships, they try to pull from you what they didn't get as a child. And when you can't give it to them, that's when stuff started going left. Or let's talk about social media. People didn't get enough attention when they were children. So they go on social media and they do whatever, however, whenever, just to get all those views. All those poor young ladies on there, all on Instagram, about half naked. They're not doing that because they want to. They're doing it because they hurt. They didn't get attention. They're trying to fill a void. If they got the love they needed, they wouldn't be on there doing that. You got people on there just doing whatever, hurting themselves, killing themselves by accident just to get attention, just to get 5,000 views. I seen where a young lady was trying to post a TikTok. I think it was TikTok. She was working a crane and she fell out the crane and the phone recorded everything. Come on now. It's a reason she was on TikTok trying to do that while working. That was very, very dangerous. But because she was trying to fill a void, she wasn't thinking about that. The only thing she was thinking about was people watch her and liking and sharing. Trauma. That's what it comes from. Trauma. Only God can fill us. Only God can fill those voids. Only God can heal us. Going to church can't even do it. All that Indian New Age crap that you got going around, all that manifesting crap, that stuff don't work. It's just New Age crap that make you feel good. It make you feel good for the moment. People use that, realize it's not good, and then move on to something else. Then they'll move on to something else. Then they'll move on to something else. I say this again. Trauma, 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 trauma. We take that word too lightly. We don't take it seriously. Sometimes we do things we don't even realize that it's the trauma that's the greatest influence. I know for social media, I was one of those people. I didn't do anything ridiculously stupid, but I used to do anything for likes and for views. And when I didn't get the result everybody else was getting, it affected my way of being. I didn't think much of myself. My self-esteem went down. That was because of trauma. That was because of my own childhood. Lack of attention, lack of acknowledgement. That was my own issues. Always fighting to be heard. That comes from my own issues, from my own childhood trauma. And I didn't realize it. It really took me a long time to realize what the issue was. Then when I found out what the issue was, then I was able to identify and allow God to start the healing process. I'm still going through that process. It's not an overnight process. And I really hate when people go up for prayer in church services and they say, we prayed in Jesus' name. That's it. It don't work like that. Yeah, somebody could be addicted to crack or, a heavy drinker, alcoholic or a drug user. But if you don't help walk them through the process of healing, they could be triggered by anything and go right back to doing what they were doing. It don't matter if they went 2,555 days without shooting up. If the right thing triggers them, they'll go back. There's somebody I know. They were free from drugs. Well, not free, but they walked away from drugs. But then their best friend passed away. And before you knew it, they was back on this stuff. It's because the glue that tied them to the situation, it was never broken. You can be saved but not set free. Getting saved, that's step number one. Of being set free, that's a process that God has to walk out with you. And that's something that really needs to be understood. Like today, everything is so quick, instant gratification, instant deliverance and all this stuff. But that's not the way it works. It takes time. Healing is a process. Now that process and the time limit is totally up to you. And God is a gentleman. And God is not going to rush the process. You're going to go by your pace. Pace. You're going to go by your pace. But that's all I wanted to say for today. In part 2, we're going to cover how to start walking out that process. We're going to talk about things that we can do to allow God to move in us and do what he needs to do and perform open heart surgery on us. So I will say, guys, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be alerted when I upload new content. Please check out my radio show on Zeno Radio. That's Zeno Radio. Check me out. The Kingdom Concept Radio Show. Concept spelled with the K. And also check out my podcast show, Facts and Farts. And I will see you guys next time. I'll talk to you guys next time.